Hi, I'm Joey Rebeschi, and this is On Spec. In this episode, I'm joined by Rita Roberts, and later in the episode, we are going to be talking the new Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein film, released on Netflix and in some theaters, very few theaters. But yeah, we're back. I already missed week 2, but that's how it goes. You're like starting a podcast. I'm like, hey, at least I'm back, like only 1 week off, so no big deal. But I've been starting working on like a small production, so like trying to find balance between all the pre-prod work on that and then like starting new podcast has just been like you need to find the balance. But hopefully we'll get more consistent as we are getting more and more releases for the rest of the month. But I still really wanted to cover Frankenstein. Yeah, I had a great conversation with Rita. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Hopefully, we will be back next week for Wicked. God willing, we'll be able to be here to talk Wicked, one of the biggest releases of the year. Very excited to see it and discuss it. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But yeah, overall, this was a great conversation. Obviously, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Frankenstein, we kind of get into everything. Um, Later in the episode, I'm also going to be talking the latest news stories of the week, but right now, let's get into our conversation on Frankenstein. Okay, so I'm now joined by Rita, cinema studies minor from NYU. That's what she was asked to be introduced as. Um, Here to talk about
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Yep.
Yeah, is there anything you want to say about yourself? Like
Yeah,
introduce
so
yourself?
when I got my minor in cinema studies from NYU, it just things really changed for me in terms of the way I view
Yeah,
movies and have like an elevated um just perspective cuz yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You ever heard yeah.
true. I think you're perfect. I think you're perfect for this.
Thank you.
For like a few reasons. But like I feel like
Right.
we'll get into
Right,
it.
right.
We'll get into it. But like I think maybe the first is like I personally am someone like with no like relationship or knowledge of like Frankenstein, like the original Mary Shelley novel. Like I have no like connection to it. Like I have like very vague familiarity with just like kind of the mythos of it, but my relationship with like the text is like very minimal. So going into this, I'm like kind of seeing like the movie just for like what it is in front of me. So I'm like you're more familiar with the book.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I read it a couple of years ago, so, you know, not super up to date, but I did really like it and I did write a couple essays about it. So, I'm going to kind of recall that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like the biggest deal in the world for an adaptation to change a lot about the source material. I think that in this
Yeah.
movie it's kind of funny because all the changes were so Guillermo del Toro that you're like, okay, you know what? Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to like make something your own. I think it's just
Yeah.
more like, oh, you really love this creature, huh? Like you really love this freaky creature.
Yeah.
And that's like a very Del Toro thing, which is awesome. But I think the original is just like a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think it's a beautiful thing to like baby girl your monster, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more angles that you can come at it from, not necessarily in the sense that like one version is like superior to the other or like one is like more. I mean, I have my own opinions about it, but I mean, they're both like distinct, separate works of art, but
Yeah.
it's just fun to compare them, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, I feel like you kind of have to take
Mm-hmm.
liberties with it because it's like if you're doing like a straight adaptation or remake, like it kind of feels like what's the point? Like why
Yeah.
would you do it now? And like we get like so many like I would describe them as like loose adaptations of just like the idea of
Yeah.
Frankenstein and like what that is. Like even like something like Poor
Mm-hmm.
Things, like I feel like is like a kind of Frankenstein
Mm-hmm.
story, if not like Frankenstein itself. And I feel like Del Toro himself, like if you look at his like work, very much like inspired by Frankenstein. And so like I think it's interesting like that he would choose to do this now, and it feels like he's like told the story in like other words before, but like never so explicitly with the actual
Mm-hmm.
character. Like Shape of Water like kind of has elements of it, but the quote that I thought was interesting that I put on like the notes was like he was like I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
Pinocchio. He did like the stop
Yeah.
motion Pinocchio film a few years ago. He wanted to do that as a Frankenstein movie, and then Frankenstein as a Pinocchio movie, and I feel like I'm like in that context, it like gives me a bit more of an appreciation for this, but I think it worked better in the context of Pinocchio because it felt like it was more, um, it was like more, it had more to add to the
Mm-hmm.
story. Where it was like, with this, it felt like kind of what you were saying with like, what is the cost of like baby girling the creature? Where it's like if you make the creature so sympathetic, like do you rob like the story of like its complexity a bit and like what makes it like interesting in that kind of way?
Yeah. No, yeah. Like
But
totally. I think like unfortunately, and it sucks because I really do like him, and like obviously I mean this all very like sympathetically and like, you know, not trying to like hate on his vision, but I think that like paradoxically by trying to like flesh out Elizabeth and sort of make her such a character with like agency and like so much empathy for the creature, and sort of making that be reciprocated and having the creature kind of love a really good person for who she is, if that makes any sense. I think that like you
mm-hmm.
are losing a lot of Shelley's original um I guess not even like subtext or anything. It's just like a lot of what she was saying about like womanhood, or how she was sort of like examining those themes of like sort of gender. Like I think something that's really notable and people have pointed it out is that the creature, when he goes to Victor and he's like, make me a friend, like make me a companion, he's not asking for a bride, he's just asking for like anyone. Like he
Yeah,
probably would have been chill
yeah,
if Victor made him um just like another old man who's blind and could like hang out, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Which there is
yeah.
a world
True,
where
true.
the creature is an amazing seeing eye dog, like just amazing. um, but no, it's just because you know in the original it's like that's a horrible ask, and honestly I think that in the
Yeah,
movie too it's kind of an extremely selfish thing to ask, but it's not really like examined. You know, it's
yeah,
like when you are a
yeah,
creature and you are so lonely and like wretched, is it evil? Like I mean it wouldn't be seen as such in the movie because the creature's just like such a poor innocent little thing, but like would it be horrible to like bring someone else into the world just to suffer the same as you? Like what if they get brought into the world and they hate you? Like you can't
yeah,
create someone just to like have like assume that they're not going to reject you. I don't know. Like it is like, and I think like yeah, like I
yeah.
don't
No,
know.
no. That's definitely like very true, and I think like you lose that from like maybe that is like the effect of making him so sympathetic, where like it doesn't really feel like his existence is like that like horror like by the point like where he's coming back and making that ask, like he's I feel like the point it's kind of making at that point is he's kind of like a normal guy, like he's
Yeah,
just like a
yeah,
guy, you know what like that was kind of the feeling on my end is like he's not like the ask isn't that crazy, which is maybe like an interesting like subversion of the story, but like it just doesn't, like what you were saying, it does not really feel like it was examined that like intensely, like um but I do think the focus on the creature makes the first half of the film feel like kind of long. Like we spend so much time with like Victor before we really get into it, and so it's like you could tell his heart is in the story of the creature, and it's like we are spending so much time like like
Yeah.
setting up Victor
Yeah.
and his quest. So it's like I can appreciate the like getting his childhood backstory, but like everything with like Christopher Waltz's character, I'm like we definitely could have like lost a little
Yeah.
bit of that just 'cause it was like this like
Big
is going
time.
on
Yeah.
for like
Like
a long time.
there's
Yeah,
an apple flying around. Like there's like where are
yeah,
we? Like what? Like just cut to Jacob Elordi, bro. Like
yeah.
um
I know I can like it's like I can appreciate like trying to flesh out
mhm.
that character, but it's almost like you want
Yeah,
to just
no,
do the Frank, like you
exactly.
want to just
Yeah.
talk about
Like,
Frankenstein, so
no,
let's
for
do
real.
it. Like
Yeah,
let's
no,
get
for
to it.
yeah, okay, so showing my like haven't read this book in a long time, but I was like, what? Why is he here? Like I thought like doesn't he just like robs great like it kind of for me I was like, okay, this is just adding a lot to like I think what in my opinion if I were adapting it, I would make like a very simple like like genuine effort to like there I think like I mean, it's called the modern Prometheus for a reason. Like Prometheus wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
an evil, neglectful guy. Like the issue is wanting to do something good and then like fucking up. But I just think he made Victor too evil and made him kill Christoph
yeah,
Waltz, who was there for some reason. And there was a big hole in the ground for some reason because it's shaped like
yeah.
the NYU library, so where I got my minor in cinema studies. But like I was so confused.
Well, I do feel like too like so we spend so much time with Victor, and like it feels like the clear setup is like okay, we're like establishing the story to focus more on like this
Mm-hmm.
paternal like trauma
Mm-hmm.
and cycle like inflicted upon him by like the father played by like Charles Dance. And then it feels like when we get to his and the creature's relationship, we kind of don't really like get too much into it beside like into like Victor's psyche besides
Mm-hmm.
he hates him. And so it makes I think all the establishing that we do for him feel like I don't know, like
Yeah,
hollow in a way.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I
But
completely
yeah.
agree. And like it is an interesting choice like to make his hatred for the creature manifest in that way. Of like
Yeah.
it I think it was really well done, like the cruelty part of it where it's like I mean, you've created this thing and your life is falling apart and now you hate it and you don't want to see it and you just like you throw it away, you put it in the but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it just didn't really it honestly like didn't really make sense to me. Like I just was kind of like he's being I
Yeah.
mean, there are people who suck. There are people who are so mean and so evil, but like I mean, sure, man. Like, chain him in the sure. Like, awesome. Shave him. Sure. Like,
Yeah.
why not? I
Yeah.
guess. But
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
understand where that was. Yeah, like you said, I just was like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't like the loss of your mother makes you. I mean, maybe I'm reading too, like literally. But
Evil.
yeah,
Like it makes you
yeah.
yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
like I just didn't really understand that.
Yeah. Well, I think like the first half, I think like we touched on that, but I was like more of a fan of like once we get to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
creatures part, like that was definitely like it was shorter than the first half, but I thought it was like more compelling even though it was like more calm. Like it almost felt like Del Toro wants to do like a
Yeah.
character study on the creature, and I'm like Jacob Elordi just like brings a very like interesting
Mhm.
energy to like
Mhm.
the creature, and like he kind of has this like sensitive, and like I think it's like influenced by like his real life
Yeah.
persona and like in a
His
way,
film
and
camera.
so it's like he's like a very, yeah, exactly, with the film camera, and he's like playing like Switch
Yeah.
while they're
Oh.
putting the makeup on him. Like I'm like I think it does like make that really compelling, like when he's with the like blind man and like all of that like contemplation on like what is like being a person, like what is
Yeah.
being human, and like I found that to be like more interesting in
Yeah.
his part. um but like overall structurally, I like, to my understanding, that whole like action set piece of the boat like isn't originally in it.
Let me do my research. I personally don't, and I also don't remember the war aspect. Like, I don't really
Yeah,
think, yeah, like, there, like, the whole, like, battle, things like that.
yeah. So I'm like, that first scene just like felt so much like let's open with
Yeah,
like
it
an
did.
action set
Yeah.
piece, and then it was like the rest of the movie kind of had to like conform around that
Hmm.
moment, and like I think that like left a bad taste in my mouth at the start. I was like
Yeah.
what is going on in this scene, and like I don't think it looked particularly good.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like whiplash. Then we're into the past, and like I kind of was more like enjoying the like Victor stuff, especially at the start, and like, but I think the framing around the boat like is just a little bit like
Yeah.
clunky, and like here's my
Yeah.
story, and now here's my
Yeah.
story, and so it's like I don't know, like I felt like it was like a little bit like
Yeah.
trite in
It
a
was
way.
definitely like a cute way of doing it. Okay, so the ship is the ship is real. The ship like but like
Okay,
no, it
okay,
definitely was like cute and not in like a great way. But I think like it
yeah,
is sort of like a way to be like, hey, like I know this was all told in like letters, so it's all let's have people just talk to us, tell us what's their story. And it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's cute, but it's like aw. It's not like wow. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Um,
feel you. And so, okay, so I guess we've talked a bit about
mhm,
Victor's arc. I feel like Oscar Isaac does like a pretty
mhm,
good job. Like he definitely like sells, especially with like his feeling towards Elizabeth. Like I think he
yeah,
sells that all like pretty well. I'm like, it's not like a knock on him. Like I think like with the arc of the character and like what he's going through, I think he does like a pretty good job. Like especially like he's hunting him at the end. Like I thought it was like
yeah,
pretty good. Um but I agree with you. It was like Christoph Waltz's character was like a little bit confusing because he was mostly like interfacing with Victor, and like I think he was like a munitions dealer or supplier or something, and like obviously it was like he wanted him to do this
right,
experiment so that he could
right.
survive, and like I felt like their fight with the big hole was like
My fight with the
it
whole.
was like my fight with the hole. It was like I think to me that was like probably the best like
Really?
actiony scene. Like I found myself like most
Hmm.
invested in that despite like not really connecting with
Right.
Christoph Waltz's character. I was just like okay, like it felt like we were like getting into motion with
Yeah.
that scene. So I was like
Yeah.
I think it was pretty
Yeah.
good.
I mean, no, I think that's fair because it technically was, I think, the only action scene or one of the only ones besides the wedding thing, which we'll probably get into, but like, which was between
Yeah.
like named characters who like mattered because otherwise it was just the creature
Yeah.
being like ah, he was like hulking out and like freaking out.
There's one other one that I have a lot of
Okay, wait,
complaints
speak on
about.
it.
Yeah. I'm like the when he blows up the
Oh
tower.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
with him in the basement, genuinely that like I hate to
Mm.
be so negative, but that broke my immersion so bad. I'm like I feel like it's such like a dorky thing to be like, the like
Yeah.
CGI
Yeah.
like really took, but it like did. Like
Yeah.
the tower, I did not like how it looked. Like the
Yeah.
fire was
Yeah.
crazy. This one particular shot of the creature like coming out of a sewer pipe with like
Yes,
flames
yes.
behind him, and
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like not. This looked like
Yeah.
not good.
They
Um,
dude, Netflix. Let's go.
Netflix, and it's like yeah, it's like a very high
Yeah,
budget movie,
actually,
so I'm
yeah,
like
true.
surprised that like it would like have that kind those
Hmm.
kind of moments. But yeah, that action set piece was like
Bro, yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
it. This is not it. One thing that I did think looked good though, good
Mm.
like segue was Lordy's
Yeah.
makeup. I actually really liked how they
Yeah.
portrayed
Oh,
him a
me
lot.
too. Like he was oh, absolutely, cuz he's supposed to be like a beautiful fellow. Especially when he had his
Yeah.
hair. That was cool. But even before then, it
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was cool. He was
He was
bald.
bald. He was bald.
It was sick.
Yeah. Well, I think it also like helps sell like the relationship between like him and Elizabeth
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that also might be like good to like circle
Yeah.
back to her, where it was like I found like her character to be very like interesting and like kind of more subdued than what I expect usually out of
Yeah.
like Mia
Yeah.
Goth. Like she definitely was like I see again, like you were mentioning, like it's very different in the book, but like it felt like she did not have a ton of like agency in a way, in like the film, and it was just like she's kind of weird and she likes
Yeah.
weird things and like so she
Yeah.
likes the creature. And like I just was
Yeah.
like I was like I get it, but on the other hand, it just didn't feel like fully like I didn't fully
Yeah.
like get
It was
her
also not like,
in like a way.
well, you know what? Who am I to say? But like love, such a weird. I don't think he ever got to a point where like, and maybe I'm just being like, maybe I'm too woke, but like I feel like it never got to a point where like loving him like bride wise was like appropriate, because the entire time it's like,
Yeah.
this is your child, you've abandoned your boy, like fuck you, this is an innocent
Yeah.
baby and you are stranding him. And then Mia Goth is like, I you're so hot. Like it's like what, like it's just, well, it's
Yeah.
like it's sweet, but
Yeah,
it's a bit
no.
more, I could think her and him, I think, okay, I think I wanted to get into like parallels and stuff in a bit, but between like
Yeah.
Victor and
Yeah.
and you know what, I feel like we can call him Frankenstein because they're related, so I think you can call the creature Frankenstein. And
Yeah.
I wish people would get off
Okay,
this, like,
okay.
case about it, because like what, no, Frankenstein was my father, like call me creature, like that's brother, like you guys are related.
Yeah, we have to give him a name.
That's
We
what
can't
I'm
call him
saying.
creature. Yeah.
So anyway, but they were a bit like, I mean, like classically, I'd say like it's like a Tarzan Jane situation where it's like, you know, but he was literally
Yeah.
born yesterday, and he can have so much love for the world
Yeah.
and curiosity and like not know anything, but like I just didn't. For me, I didn't really understand. I think that like if she had more time to teach him things, because she knows so many weird strange things about like bugs, and if he saw a bug and he was like, what the hell is this, like then I would be like, oh my god, okay, you guys are like, I could see you guys falling in love. But he learned his ABCs
Yeah.
from an old hermit in the woods, and then hung out with her at her wedding, and then like, I don't know, I just didn't like, I thought it was like really rushed, probably because he was wasting so much time with Kristoff,
Yeah, bro,
unfortunately.
that's
like, what are you doing?
that's what I was saying. I was like literally like it feels like we needed more, like if you're gonna tell that story, we like
Yeah.
needed more of that and less of whatever
Yeah.
was going on
Yeah.
with Victor at
Yeah.
the front. But like parallels, I feel like this was not a very like nuanced
Mhm.
movie. Like the brother literally like said to him
Yeah.
like you are the
Yup.
monster. And I like bro,
Yeah.
I rolled my I was like
Yeah.
yeah, like duh.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I kind of did enjoy like
Mhm.
Mia Goth doing the
Yeah,
dual
me too.
role. Like very
Mhm.
heavy-handed, very heavy-handed. But like it is interesting. It's like Victor is in love with her and she
Yeah.
resembles the mom. And then his brother is
Yeah.
engaged to her,
And his,
and
yeah.
she died during childbirth, and
Mm.
then his son, like
Yeah.
Victor's son, Frankenstein, is also
Yeah.
in love with her, and like the whole like lineage of this family is
With
infatuated with their
me.
matriarch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like it definitely like it was interesting because there was so
Yeah.
much focus on like the paternal like
Yeah, totally.
cycle, but it was also like just in like I thought
Yeah.
it was like interesting to
It's
also
just
have
like
that
if
they're
Freud was
all
real. Yeah.
infatuated with her. Yeah,
Yeah. No, yeah, that
exactly.
was really funny. Well, it was, I mean, it wasn't funny, but I was like, all right, fair enough. Like, but I
Yeah,
didn't, okay,
yeah,
so I
yeah,
did not realize it was her because I'm kind of face blind and she had eyebrows. So I was like, who is that? Like, I was like,
yeah.
I don't know. But okay, she's a real sweetheart and they just seem like they don't know many women. So like I get like I get like her and like the creature literally has never met any other woman ever. So I understand like
Yeah,
somehow like
yeah,
like Victor gave him some heterosexuality and he was like need but
yeah, yeah,
like I feel like that makes sense and Victor's just like a freak so I can see him trying to get with his brother's
yeah,
wife slash fiance I guess or
yeah.
girlfriend.
Fiance. Yeah,
So I was like it is yeah definitely a Freudian situation. I just don't understand. Like I get it. I get that he's like doing well, I don't get what he was doing. I did not need to see Victor be a child. Really, to be honest. It doesn't matter to me.
yeah,
I think like for me and what I find interesting and honestly what I think Del Toro finds interesting too, and he should have like we've been talking about like everything with the creature is just way better. I just
yeah,
the fascinating part of the story and the reason it's endured forever is because it's insane that like it's just terrifying to like not even like as an act of malice or as an act of like Satanism or anything like demonic or evil or anything, but like to create life outside of like a natural process is like people still want to do that and people see it as like altruistic. I mean like if there was a way to bring people back from the dead, I'm sure tons of people would want to do it. And that's like it's such a seductive idea
yeah,
and it's such a terrifying one because you don't like especially when Mary Shelley was writing, it was like what is this going to look like in like a religious society or in like
yeah,
like a creature
yeah,
created through sin but without sin because he wasn't born like it's just such a weird freaky thing and it's just like
yeah,
so I don't care that his dad well maybe I won't I won't go that far but like it's just so it seems irrelevant in my opinion to like the interesting story being told and it like totally like truncates the interesting part which sucks. It
yeah.
was annoying.
I completely agree. Like the movie flirts with that, and I like wanted it to get deeper in. Like he was presenting it to the count, whatever that
Yeah.
council was, um, and like they were all like horrified. They were like, "This is not
Yeah.
godly," and then like nothing else on it, and it feels like, bro, like all these people saw like him
Yeah.
reanimate,
Yeah.
reanimate this. Like it felt like, and then like also like Mia Goth like has one line about I think it's like he's like born like
Yeah.
completely pure. Like is he born like without any
Yeah.
sin, like original sin? And like Oscar Isaac or Victor kind of like
Yeah.
brushes her off. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like
No,
let's hear her speak
literally.
it. Like I'm very kind of
Yeah.
interested in like that
Yeah,
train of thought.
absolutely.
So I'm like I feel like it flirted with it, but like we did
Yeah.
not dive into
Yeah.
it super deep.
Like it's possible he got too into having daddy issues to like that was
Yeah.
so mean. But no, like I'm not saying he has daddy, but it got too into like oh my god, generational trauma. And it's like this man just created a person out of different parts of people. I don't like it doesn't Like, and sure, like, it's a human story,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like, oh my god, spectacle, like, I only care about him creating a person out of other people, but it's just, I don't, like, it just it could have been like 5 minutes, it could have been like a, like, they could have been like, yeah, my dad really sucked, my mom died, like, and she was Mia Goth, like, I just don't,
Yeah. Yeah. It was like they just spent a
yeah,
lot of time on it and then it kind of
yeah,
just took away. But I guess speaking on the like maybe this would be a good like way to wrap up the
mm,
paternal trauma thing. But like when we get to the end, he's on the boat dying and he's like heard Frankenstein
mm,
tell his tale and he apologizes and like it seems like he's had this big change of heart. That was another one of my biggest issues with the movie. I didn't feel like it felt like super
yeah,
earned. Like the last like he is at the point where he just completely hates him and I feel like we don't really get that turning point, which is like maybe like representative of life. Like sometimes things like aren't super neat and like don't make a
mm,
ton of sense. But I do think like I don't know, I just feel like the arc like didn't feel it felt like we were
yeah,
missing like a piece to understand like how he got from like I'm going to try to kill you with dynamite to like I heard you tell it from your
yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
And so like I'm sorry, you're my
yeah,
son, I love you.
yeah, I think, in my opinion, maybe what's missing was like genuine fear and like misunderstanding from Victor, and not just
Mm,
like in the sense that like, oh my god, you're mad at me, but just like, if you made a creature that was ungodly and you were like, this might be a demon, you, why would you, I think, for someone supposedly so smart, you're not gonna torture it, or you're not gonna, like, I think that this, like, I think it really was missing, like just genuine like awe and terror at what you created, and not just like the process of creating it, but like the thing itself.
mhm.
Because then
Mhm.
if there was like that misunderstanding, then you would have like the reconciliation where it's not just like, oh, I see where you're coming from. It's like, oh, I really, really misjudged you,
Yeah.
but I was like terrified of you because you were a demon to me. Like, absolutely and completely. And I think
Yeah.
that, like, I think in the original, also, not like to compare them all the time, but like, Victor is so scared and he doesn't stick around. Like, he doesn't
Mm.
stick around and like torture the creature and like lock it up. He just abandons it. And I think that like it makes it a more like
Yeah.
sympathetic, because there's a reading, I know people talk a lot about like Mary Shelley and where she was coming from writing it, in terms of like her, I think she
Mhm.
had like a miscarriage like famously before, and it was like
Mm.
extremely traumatic, and like I'm sure a lot of that is like a part of, like, not saying that like especially women like it's a big thing to be like, oh, they have to write from their experiences, and I'm not saying that's like entirely the situation, but like Victor is, he's a father and it's like a paternal story, but he's also a mother. Like, he created life. Like, he
Mm.
is for he like built it, like, quite literally. And then there's no one else he can like, because I think for like a paternity story, it would be more like, I have the ability to leave. I think classically for men it's like just much easier to like skip
Yeah.
town. And in the original, like, he tries to do that, like,
Yeah.
he doesn't stick around and torture it, but it catches up with him, and it, because it's his, like, it's him, and I think like that's
Yeah.
something that's like kind of missing, is like the like, because like pregnancy and like having a child, I think especially as a woman, is such a terrifying thing, that this,
Mhm.
when I read the book, I was like really resonating with, because I was like, you know, as a person who could like have and carry a child and like create life in that sense, it's just like,
We're back after some technical difficulties, but like jumping back in, I think what we kind of left off on was you talking about like Victor almost like as the mother to Frankenstein and like how that kind of was playing with Mary Shelley and such.
Yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to say that he's a bit more sympathetic in my eyes, um,
Yeah.
than he got credit for. But it's
Yeah.
a different story he's telling. But I just think the other story that I'm like making up in my head is more interesting, I guess.
No, I agree. I'm like, I think that kind of gets to the root. Like, we've talked so much about, like, it's interesting to make Frankenstein like so sympathetic, and like what does that strip the story of? And I think you kind of got to the bottom of that, where it's like if you make Victor so unsympathetic, you kind of lose a lot of what like it seems like the original is kind of saying about parenthood.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're also losing like both questions of like nature and nurture. Not that I think that that's what Frankenstein the novel is about or what any of them are really about, but like I think that the creature remaining so perfect and untainted despite all the
Yeah.
abuse he suffered is like it's sweet and I feel terrible for him and poor Jacob Elordi with his long hair and he's so sad. But it yeah, it just like dulls down a lot of complexity. It's like, it's like you're the monster. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and literally no
Yeah.
shit. There is like yeah. I don't know.
No, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah.
I feel like okay, I feel like we've kind of exhausted maybe like the themes and like plot of the movie, but I know that you had
Yeah.
said that you wanted to talk about like it in the context of like other
Yes.
kinds of topics.
Yes, I did. I wanted to talk, I guess, about um I think it's so interesting that like culturally we've moved so far from like the Boris Karloff version to the point where it
Mm-hmm.
is like duh for people to say like, "Oh, Frankenstein's not his name. That's like the creature. That's the scientist is
Yeah.
Frankenstein." Which
Mm-hmm.
is like fair, and I'm glad that people are engaging, I guess, with like literature and stuff when they're
Yeah.
saying stuff like that. But I feel like it's kind of funny because it's like a new sort of twist on like maybe what pop culture Frankenstein will become. And
Yeah.
I think I think like the main differences were like just in pop culture, like when you see like Frankenstein, Boris Karloff version versus a novel, you're like, okay, he's like he can speak, he's very eloquent.
Mm-hmm.
He has so much inner turmoil. He's beautiful and he is just a lot more like human than the monster
Mm-hmm.
depicted. And I think this is such it's so funny that it's like we've gone so far to like he's a perfect little angel, like shut up. Like don't you know? And I am curious as to like is there a place for the guy with the stick in his neck, cuz he's awesome. I
Yeah.
love Boris Karloff and I love like Young Frankenstein and like even like the playful like I don't this is kind of a Frankenstein story, but like Rocky Horror, because it is like it has like
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful creation and like the father son, but just like weird dynamic that like
Yeah. Yeah.
people, yeah, I think people are so into, I don't know, like the father son like abuse sort of narrative now that I wonder if like there will be a bit of a backlash to that at some point where it's
Yeah.
like actually Victor's childhood was normal and awesome and he was just really freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because then like you by like sidestepping that, like you can explore like more kind of like new grounds within like the mythos.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Like push the story forward, I guess.
Yeah, I think it might for a maybe for a bit if it's a very popular story and it gets very like big in anything. I think it might kill the like creator romance genre, which is a bit of
Yeah.
a weird thing, but like your Rocky Horrors or your Pygmalions and Galateas and like when you create a thing and you're its abusive parent now, like you can't, it's kind of over. Like, and I think
Yeah.
like it's incestuous, but it's really not. Not my place to say, I suppose, but like, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which they were already like a really freaky, like gross dynamic, but I don't know, just something interesting for the culture, I guess.
No, that's true. That's true. I think on a technical level,
Hmm.
I think I really did like the cinematography at
Yeah.
times. I think like beautiful framing, beautiful colors. I'm thinking specifically to like when they're in the Arctic, like on the ice, like the
Hmm.
sunsets, like there's so much like beauty there. But like kind of as I was saying like earlier, I think there's just like moments where it's like the CGI is genuinely so like it kind of like takes you out, especially when like the history and mythos of Frankenstein like has so much to do with practical effects and it's like entrenched in that, and like I think you like lose that in a way, and it's like there's such like an emphasis that was placed on like we built all these physical sets, we're like doing this like in the marketing of the film, that it's like when everything's becoming like CG, it's like what's the point at that point. um but I think like when you kind of combine everything with that, like the movie just looks a little bit like flat overall. So while there's like a lot of great work going on with the camera, it's like you're kind of like washing it over with like this like Netflix sheen. I also noticed like there was a choice to like shoot it all like super wide
Hmm.
lenses. Like there
Hmm.
was not like a ton of like close-ups, which I think is really interesting with the story of Frankenstein. It's like we're kept at a distance from everything. Um and it's like whether that was intentional or not, I think I think it was like the little variety in the lens choice was like sometimes made it feel monotonous, but I think like it's so intentional that it's like we are not like fully involved in this story. Um and like yeah, if you're just seeing like super wide photography in films, like I'm like thinking of like super recent examples like Poor Things, obviously everything Yorgos has been doing, like he's been pushing it wider. But even like Blockbuster, like Superman, like so much of that was shot like really wide. So I think it's like interesting to see like that kind of stylistic choice and like how it can influence it. But like Del Toro is just like I think a really positive point of the film is like he has such a control over like camera frame, like, and I think like the directing was like really great throughout the whole thing. So like I'm like I can't knock it on that, but it almost feels like stylistically it was more deep than it was thematically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually like a really really interesting analysis. I never really, I like didn't notice the wides when I was watching it, but then now that I'm like thinking about it back, I'm like, oh, maybe that's why like the first kind of scenes with Victor and the creature were so like impactful because they were a lot more intimate.
Mm-hmm.
But and like that was why I think maybe that was like the most like arresting, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it was a bit more flat, which like that's just a
Yeah.
really really interesting point I hadn't thought about. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was like really gorgeous at points. Definitely the CGI was tough. But like the costuming was incredible. Um
Amazing.
just like absolutely nuts. Like Mia Goth, everything she wore, the headpieces and everything were stunning
Mm-hmm.
and just like really
Yeah.
appropriate for her character. And
Yeah.
like Jacob
Even
Elord,
like
yeah,
her
yeah.
blood-soaked wedding dress.
Yeah.
Like when
Mhm.
she's in the cave, like
Yeah.
just like obviously that's not necessarily like costume, but like the design of like the blood seeping through
Yeah.
that white is just like that was just
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, stunning. Yeah, and then like Jacob Elordi's like kind of like goth thing that's like going on like later when he's in the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Um I mean that looked really good, especially when he's like getting chased or not when he's chasing, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought everybody looked really good and yeah, I get yeah, technically yeah, it just sucks. It sucs the fire was really tough. Like the
The
fire
fire
was
was
tough.
tough.
Yeah. But I think do you think did you have like an issue with like the action scenes like in general, because I was reading some people being like, oh, then they just like throw in some action just to like wake you back up. And like I saw it with my friend Liz, and we low key fell asleep during it so a little bit. So and then like, but I was locked in when like the wolves thing was happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
do you? Well, yeah. Just what was your take on like action and those sort of things?
I think like I kind of understand it, but like I'm like of the perspective of like that was probably one of my least favorite. Like I don't need that like action.
Yeah.
Like I definitely like that was kind of where like I think it was at its weakest. I do like the scene with the wolves, but like that's like less of like a spectacle action thing. Like I feel like something like that's more character driven. But yeah, when like the whole tower explosion sequence just like something like that just feels like flat in a way, just because it's like it feels like it's there for that purpose, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it succeeds at that.
Yeah. Like I think it also kind
Yeah.
of damaged like the emotional aspect of that scene, because I was like when he was running around throwing the gasoline, I was like, this is Mean Girls. Like when she's throwing
Yeah.
like it's like I don't know, it just because then you're like, whoa, it's exploding. Is he gonna make it in the sewer? Instead of like, wait, you low key just tried to like murder your son because
Yeah.
why? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think
It's like robbing the impact in a way.
yeah, totally. Like, I think I guess I'm curious because I like from I guess from like a filmmaking perspective, like, do you think that like Netflix had anything to do with like that kind of sort of like mandated action or like shots looking a certain way? Because a lot of it was
Hmm.
really standard, especially in the beginning, in the opening. I was like, this is gonna be bad, but I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would in the first 5 minutes. But I
Yeah.
was like, it's giving like he's right behind me, isn't he? Like I just like
Yeah.
just
No,
like
literally.
the filmmaking. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like I think I feel like to me that opening scene definitely feels like okay, like we don't want people tapping off on Netflix. But I don't know. I'm like Pinocchio didn't necessarily feel that way, and that was Netflix as well. With him, so I think it might be a mix of both. I do think visually though, I don't know. I'm like I couldn't find anything on it like if there's like actually a mandate or something, but like it feels like visually like it's being like pulled down from Del Toro's usual style because like we're getting closer to a Netflix style, which is like weird to describe when talking about like a streaming platform and product like it's not necessarily like Netflix is not like an auteur like it
Yeah.
doesn't signify an artistic definition, and so it's like interesting that we have like this kind of qualifier for this company of like okay
Yeah.
like we're noticing this stylistically.
Yeah. Ew, that's oh, that like makes me feel so weird. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix as like auteur is so
Well, because
freaky.
like there's the like quote unquote like A24 style, and
Yeah,
so like it
true.
feels like the antithesis to that is kind of like the Netflix style. And
Yeah.
with both of those, like with A24 there's like criticism of like A24 like isn't a style, it's a production company,
Hmm.
but like ultimately there is like a thread in terms of like certain things that come through because like they have a quote unquote like brand identity. So I think like Netflix is also subject to that in a way, even if we don't view them as artistic of a like entity as like something like A24 or like Neon.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's so scary for like
I
art,
guess
I guess.
yeah. I guess okay, a more like kind of fun I don't want to say business, but like bigger picture like thing to talk about is like we are currently in an era where like horror is like the predominant genre. Like the biggest hits, like I feel like are horror movies. Like obviously Sinners and Weapons, but like the Final Destination movie was like huge hit and stuff. So I'm like curious like where the classics kind of fit into that and like reinterpreting the classics. And so that's another reason I'm like you're a great guest for this because like we saw Nosferatu together, and I think
True.
in many ways I'm like these like are almost in tandem. Like coming out less than a year together, kind of like auteur horror directors with like Eggers and Del Toro, and it's like I feel like so many of the places where Frankenstein failed, I think Nosferatu kind of succeeded. Like that movie was like so rooted in the practicality, like it's in camera. Um
Mm-hmm.
and like even if I wasn't the hugest fan of Nosferatu, I'm like I think that that movie did a lot right. That will maybe make it more of like a long time like kind of cult classic that people will talk about more so than Frankenstein.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good comparison. Yeah, I guess like thinking back, well, first of all, I think it's incredibly fascinating horror movies as like a reflection of culture. I read this
Mhm.
book called Wasteland, and I think it was about like how the entire cinematic like horror genre is from like World War I. It like was spawned out of like the
Mm.
horrors of like that, specifically that war. And how like things like the original like 1930s Frankenstein were like a reflection of like fear of death, and like cuz the original was like a reanimated like Frankenstein, the character, the Boris Karloff character, is so different
Mhm.
from the Mary Shelley Frankenstein because like of the horror of the reanimated corpse as like a shuffling like inhuman thing as opposed to like a sentient creature, if that makes sense. Like there was like a fear of like the hordes and like the masses of the dead, in
Mhm.
terms of like zombies and stuff. Whereas like Nosferatu, I think maybe like Krakauer or someone, I don't think he mentioned Nosferatu specifically, but when he was talking about like sorry, when he was talking about German expressionism like before World War II, he was talking about how like they reflected like a national um mood or like a national moment that like led to like the acceptance of fascism or like the like enactment of it, I guess. So I think that like
Mhm.
yeah, like I hadn't really thought about it. Like your point about horror being so popular now is, and especially remakes of those classics, because I remember watching Nosferatu and thinking, like, what does this reflect about like current? Like, why
Yeah.
are these things coming out 1 year? It can't like I don't think it's just like, oh, I'm scared. I mean, maybe it is,
Yeah.
but like I mean, I guess Frankenstein in particular, I don't know, because the like generational trauma aspect is so like on the nose. So I'm maybe
Mhm.
wondering if that's like an update from like, okay, so we're out of like the horrors of war made by a World War I vet, and now we're
Mhm.
on, which would be like the 1931 Frankenstein, and now we're on to like my dad was really really mean to me,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be like uncharitable, because like there are huge issues going on right now, but in terms of like cinematic representations of those issues through horror, I guess like yeah, like maybe weapons or like sinners might be more apt. And
Yeah.
I do kind of wonder what Eggers and Del Toro meant to like contribute, or like
Yeah.
unconsciously were like feeling, that made them
Yeah.
want to take these things like out of their original not even original, because Frankenstein the movie was already like a remake, but like out of like their most famous context, I guess. You
Yeah.
know?
I think like that's part of why this might feel like a little sauceless.
Yeah.
Like I don't like hate the movie, but it's like it feels like there's missed potential because like it's not having that same like thematic like richness. And I think
Mm-hmm.
another thing is like this movie is just like not scary.
Yeah.
Like I think that
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
reflects it in a lot of ways. Like I don't really find it to be like a scary movie. It's more of like an action movie with
Yeah.
character drama elements to it. And
Totally.
so I think that's like I respect the choice to take it in that direction, but I think it's interesting to consider like with the significance of horror, there's also a significance of stripping the story of horror.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's really smart.
okay, well I think we're good to wrap it there. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for like being a guest. I really appreciate it. I'm like you contributed so much and so I'm like, yeah, I think that'll be great.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun and I love your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Rita for coming on, discussing Frankenstein. Now we are going to talk news. I have 2 weeks kind of news to catch up on, so selected stories that feel the most interesting or still relevant, of things to discuss. I'm alone for this, just because of like scheduling reasons. Wasn't able to have Rita for the outro, but we're going to talk the news, so let's get right into it. Predator Badlands, which I gave a shout out in the first episode. I said it looked pretty good. I said go see it. And I think like I am actually solely responsible for that film actually outperforming all expectations. So 20th century, I'm expecting a check, for the success of Predator Badlands. Um, but yeah, I mean, it had an amazing opening weekend. Now that we've seen the second weekend, it had a pretty not great drop, but still, um, it's positive signs of life for the kind of Predator slash Alien franchise in the era of Disney ownership. Prey was really beloved and seemed like a big success on Hulu a few years ago. Last year's Alien Romulus I thought was pretty amazing. I really loved that film, and it did actually pretty well, all things considered. And then this year we got Alien Earth on Hulu, TV show, which I liked, but I definitely had like some issues with. It's not my favorite piece of the canon or whatever, but I thought it was pretty good, and I was hoping for season two. I think, that show didn't seem to perform super well, and with the budget that it had, it seemed very unlikely for us to get a season two. But tying into the success of Predator Badlands, instead of getting a kind of announcement for a Predator sequel, we actually got an announcement for Alien Earth season two, which is honestly a shock, considering how that show performed. But I'm very excited to be getting a season two. I think that show needs a season two, to wrap it up. But I think there's a lot of exciting things happening in this Predator Alien space. And I think the fact that we saw an Alien announcement come off the Predator movie is pretty interesting. I think that's like an interesting thing to happen. And I think it signals the interconnectivity of those franchises. Obviously, there's a synth in Predator Badlands from the Alien franchise, but I think all signs are kind of pointing to an eventual Alien versus Predator movie, which I think would be very interesting in the modern landscape. So I would definitely keep an eye on that, but this is a win for fans of these, movies. Like Predator does great, and we're getting Alien Earth season two. I think there's a bright future ahead. So I'm very happy about that, despite the second week drop. Um, this last weekend, we had Running Man severely underperform, and Now You See Me, Now You Don't doing extremely well. I think I could feel this coming on with Running Man. The marketing has been, I don't know how to put it. It feels very like lackluster. I think that Edgar Wright post Baby Driver has had this feeling that's very commercial and not as exciting or stylistic as he once was, which is like very funny to consider, thinking about his whole Ant-Man Marvel fiasco, where he left the production of Ant-Man as director after working on it for 8 years because he felt like Marvel had gone in too much of a formulaic route, and now it almost feels like his own movies and career are going in that direction. And I only bring this up just because, seeing in like interviews and press, um, he's been talking so much about his experience on the Ant-Man film in the Running Man press. So it I can't help but draw that comparison where it feels like he almost went down this rabbit hole on his own. But I want to see The Running Man. I hope to see it soon. I'm a fan of Wright's. I want to see, great Edgar Wright movies. I think he's a great artist, a great visionary. I feel like he has the sauce in him, and we need to see it pulled out. But unfortunately, The Running Man did underperform. On the opposite hand, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the third in the franchise, is doing very well. I saw a headline that was in its opening weekend in China. It outperformed every superhero movie this year combined. So that would be like Captain America 4, Thunderbolts, the new Superman movie, and the Fantastic Four movie. All of those complete grosses in China were outperformed in opening weekend by Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which I think is a very, very interesting thing to consider if you're into box office, just because when you look at the quote unquote like golden era of like huge box office movies, there was like 9 or 10 movies that made over $1 billion in 2019, and that's mainly aided by China. And if you look at American films in China over the last, I want to say 3-4 years, they've been like, it's gone from like 100 to like 1 or 2, and like I don't know, it's just interesting to consider and see what does break through in the Chinese market. So I think that like Now You See Me, Now You Don't is going to be something that people look at and try to replicate that success in China, because I think a lot of studios and franchise movies are trying to win that audience back. Now, I guess like talking about like future movies, like news in terms of that, we got the first trailer for the Michael movie about Michael Jackson. Um, I think I think we're in a spot where the music biopic feels really overplayed. Like it feels very tired right now. We're just coming off of Springsteen. We just had a complete unknown last year. We're in the midst of a lot of them. And it feels like the excitement is dying down. And I think that the trailer for this movie does not look particularly good. I think also hearing about behind the scenes troubles with this movie. Will it be split into 2 parts? They had to reshoot the entire third act for legal reasons. It feels like a complete nightmare. I would, be happy for this to be a great movie. But I don't foresee that being the case, especially with the story that they're trying to tell. And think that I think that it'll be interesting to see if it's split into 2 parts or not. But I think they're really gonna struggle with that third act and making it palatable if they can't really talk about like the elephant in the room. So, um, needless to say, I think that this is gonna be interesting to keep an eye on. I think there's a chance that this makes like a ton of money. Michael Jackson is extremely, extremely popular to this day, so I kind of foresee this being one of the biggest hits of the musician biopic. And might be the swan song to the current era of we're doing every singer from the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We're giving them biopics. So I would keep an eye on it, but I'm cautious. I'm cautious around this movie. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. Something that I thought was a little bit more exciting. This is kind of old news by now, but the Miss Piggy movie is confirmed to be in development, with producers Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence, being written by Escola. I think this is an amazing story. I love the Muppets. I feel like the Muppets are one of the most like underutilized media franchises as of the current day. I feel like we need like an SNL for Muppets. Like we need the Muppet Show back. That is my personal opinion. I think we're getting that. Maybe we're getting a pilot produced by Seth Rogen. and Sabrina Carpenter, which I think is very, very interesting to consider in tandem with this Miss Piggy film, where it feels like strong creative voices are coming in and saying that they want to do things with the Muppets and those characters, and hopefully we see them come to fruition and not, safeguarded by Disney. But yeah, I think this and then the new Muppet pilot, very, very, very interesting things to keep an eye on, especially as a Muppet fan. I'm very excited to see what this team does for this Miss Piggy movie. I think it sounds awesome. I think it truly does sound very good. So hopefully this comes into fruition. Speaking of fruition, um, great segue. Marty Supreme marketing is ramping up. Timothée Chalamet posted a very funny, like 18-minute video of him on a creative marketing Zoom call. And I think like just seeing his viral marketing tactics are like, it's just something very interesting to behold and witness. And that video is one of the strangest ways I've seen a movie marketed, but kind of genius and metatextual about what it seems that movie is going to be. Um, and I think he's really creating a moment around Marty Supreme. And I think that a lot of other, actors need to study the Timothée Chalamet method of marketing. Like we're seeing the complete unknown like marketing campaign cranked up to 100. He's going on Drewski this afternoon. Um, I think it's extremely interesting, and so many like memes and moments have come out of this Zoom call video, fruitionizing the orange blimp. Just like he completely committed to this bizarre, hyper like version of himself, and I think it's really cool to see an actor do that. It's definitely up my alley in terms of kind of what I find funny. So yeah, I hope we see more of this. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what he's gonna do over the next month leading up to the release of Marty Supreme. But it does feel very genius. Speaking of, I'm like really like segueing from like topic to topic. But speaking of other actors taking notes from Timothée Chalamet, the spread, I think it was Variety or Vanity Fair, just came out of like young leading men in Hollywood, and very interesting selection of people. It's generated a lot of discourse. I think a lot of people commenting on the exclusion of Timothée Chalamet, of Jacob Elordi, of Josh O'Connor, which I think is very interesting that people are really focusing on them not being there. I think, obviously it could be scheduling, maybe they turned it down, or maybe they just weren't asked. I kind of doubt that they weren't asked in the context of who's a part of that. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think there's a lot of talented people in there, and I think that it's interesting to see like the quote unquote backlash to that article. I don't know if I have much more to say about it. I think it's a lot of talented young guys. I think it was cool to see ASAP Rocky in there. He's had a great year with Highest to Lowest and If I Had Legs I Would Kick You. I don't know if I'd qualify him as a leading man yet, but I hope to see him as a leading man because he really impressed me in both of those films. But really cool to see him get his flowers. But yeah, I guess moving on. Now we're kind of into a little like mini double story. We had a big presentation about the Super Mario Galaxy movie coming out this April. We got the first trailer and we got some casting announcements. I'm going to be very transparent. I am a very, 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 very big Nintendo fan. So I'm biased in a huge way to enjoy these movies and see like stuff that I like coming to the screen. I'm a defender of the first Mario movie. I don't think it's some kind of crazy amazing story, but it's leaps and bounds above any other Illumination film. It's like I would swear that a different studio made the Mario movie as compared to every other Illumination film I've seen. Maybe with like the exception of the Sing movies. But even then, I think the Mario movie is much better than that. But, obviously it has its shortcomings. It's not some kind of masterpiece, but it hit the notes for me. It hit the notes that it needed to hit for me as an animated movie, as a family movie, as an adaptation of Mario. I think everything worked pretty well. Obviously, I have objections with the Chris Pratt as Mario casting, but I feel pretty solid about the rest of the cast. I think the rest of it worked pretty well, and I didn't think that he was that offensive actually in the movie. But I've been really anticipating the sequel, and the fact that it's the Super Mario Galaxy movie is very interesting. I think it's interesting to kind of leap to this part of the Mario, like, quote unquote mythos. We're going straight to Rosalina and Bowser Jr., who we got castings on. Brie Larson as Rosalina, which I think is a pretty good casting. I almost feel like her and Anya Taylor-Joy would be like good swapped. I feel like Brie Larson would probably be a better Peach, and Anya Taylor-Joy would be a better Rosalina. But that's neither here nor there. And I think that Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. is the possibly funniest casting in the whole Mario casting mythos. Definitely like the most unexpected avenue they could have gone, and I think he sounds good. I think he sounds pretty good in the role. I'm excited. The fact that there was an Uncut Gems reference in a Nintendo Direct fulfilled like so much for me. That was a big moment for me. Hearing Shigeru Miyamoto say Benny Safdie is one of just the funniest moments of my life. I'm like, this is an insane cultural crossover of two things I never ever thought would cross paths. But yeah, I'm super excited to see the movie. I think it looks pretty good. I think we need to see more. I think it's interesting that we didn't get anything on Yoshi, especially when that's how the last movie kind of ended. We know it from marketing, that like leaked marketing materials, that Yoshi's going to be in it. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on the rollout of this movie. I'm like excited for this. I'm a Mario fan. I'm excited for this. And then speaking of Nintendo movies, we got our first look at the Legend of Zelda movie. I have been extremely worried about this movie. I think that, Avi Arad as producer is eyebrow raising, and Wes Ball as the director does not inspire the highest confidence. So I've been kind of like waiting with bated breath to get anything about this movie. As someone who adores The Legend of Zelda, I really have not wanted them to screw this up. We got leaked set photos, which kind of were giving us glimpses of things, and we're like pointing in a positive direction. I was seeing them and I was like, okay, this seems like the movie is going in a direction that will do the series justice. And then it seems like they were kind of forced into releasing this first look at Link and Zelda in costume, and I think they look amazing. I think this movie looks like it's gonna be epic and grand and serious. And so yeah, I'm super excited. A lot of my worries have kind of been quelled. I'm still cautiously optimistic, but at least it seems like the tone is gonna be right, and the two of them look like Link and Zelda. Like, they look very good. And from the leaked set photos, it seems like I do not know the actress's name, but she plays Gemma on Severance, and it seems like she's gonna be playing Impa, who is like part of Zelda's royal guard, trying to explain it in like, if you're not a fan of Zelda. But I think that's a great casting too. I think everything is looking really promising. It looks like completely opposite from the tone of the Mario movie, which I think is super needed. I'm still I'm still mixed on the decision to do this as live action and not an animated film. I think you could do a lot with this as an animated film, but they're winning me over. With everything I'm seeing, I'm like becoming more and more at ease with this movie and more excited to see it in 2027. So, hoping that everything continues to go smoothly, and I can't wait to see more. Now, onto a less kind of exciting story. It's been a very interesting week for Disney marketing. We've gotten like 3 1-minute teasers that have all been met with kind of general malaise. We got The Devil Wears Prada 2, a very weird teaser that's coming out in May. People did not seem to respond well to it. It's like a very I would recommend watching it if you haven't seen it, but it's a very kind of weird, just like it doesn't even, I'm not even sure if it's part of the film, but it's just a scene of Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep kind of winking and nodding at the camera like we're back. So, I think it's definitely a packed cast, and the first movie is obviously classic. So it'll be interesting to see come May, how this movie is. Like, I'm not gonna judge it based off this first piece of marketing, but yeah, like it's now entered the public consciousness. And then it was followed up by another 1 minute teaser for Toy Story 5, coming out in June. I think that, you know, I really want to see a trailer for this. I think this is probably the one that had the like least amount of pushback, just because it's so broad. Like, we're just seeing the characters basically look at the camera scared and react to the what Bonnie, the child, receive an iPad. And that's going to kind of be the crux of the movie, is toys versus technology, which I think is a very interesting pitch for a movie. I'm not necessarily mad at Toy Story getting a fifth movie. I'm not a fan of the fourth one. So I think that coming back doesn't feel as offensive to me as it did when we came in for four after three. I think that three is a perfect ending, and four muddied that. And so I think hopefully five is a course correction, and we can look at four as a weird detour. So I'm not like fully against the existence of a Toy Story 5, and I think there's an interesting story to be told there, with society shifting away from the idea of a traditional toy. So I think there is a strong hook of why this movie is important. So this is another one, I'm like cautiously optimistic to see what this movie is, where it goes, but I really need to see a proper trailer before passing judgment. And then the last one, which just came out, is this 1 minute teaser for Moana. And like, I'm not gonna get crazy into it because I feel insane like diving in on like a rant to myself at my computer recording about a Moana trailer. But everything's already been said. I think it looks extremely soulless. It's been less than 10 years since the first Moana. It's kind of ugly. There's no kind of point to it. And it does not look good at all. Visually, it does not look good. And it just feels like, from stories I've been reading, it feels like this movie was spurred by The Rock, following the disappointment of Black Adam, kind of pushing another Jumanji movie, and doing this Moana live action remake so soon after the first one. And we just got Moana 2 last November, and that made over $1 billion. So it feels really odd that we're getting this now, and it seems like it's, for lack of a better phrasing, it's the fault of The Rock. Like, he really pushed for this Moana live action remake, when I think, if we're in the era of Disney live action remakes, I think they would have been better served to look to like the late 90s, early 2000s of movies they haven't adapted. Like, I don't know, like something like Hercules might have been better. So we'll see, but Moana is, I'm I'm a fan of the music of the first one. I also think it's cool to have Moana as like such a popular premiere princess. I'm like I think that's great, and I think that she's a very important figure for a lot of kids right now. And I'm like I just do not. I hope that this movie does not like kind of taint that legacy. But I guess kids aren't really worried about that, so who cares? But yeah, I think it's interesting too with The Rock starting his awards campaign. It feels like he said, "I don't want to do movies like this anymore. After the Smashing Machine, I only want to do kind of more challenging movies and roles." And I don't know if maybe he already had these in the pipeline and that's where he's going to shift now. But the choice not to show his face, maybe it's a marketing choice. Like we feel like The Rock isn't so popular right now. But I think it's also interesting to consider that he is pushing this narrative that he wants to be a serious actor. So I wonder if they'll hold off on showing us live action Rock in Moana until after kind of the awards campaign so he can posture as a more serious actor. Like I think that it might hurt his chances if he's full swing into Moana promotion. So interesting to keep an eye on as well. I think this movie does not look great. It comes out in July. I'm interested to see a more proper trailer, but yeah, this is not looking great. And then kind of our final story, transitioning to the next week. Obviously, Wicked's coming out. On the last episode, I was talking about tracking for Wicked for Good, being around 120, which was like a good amount, like higher than the first film. It seems like this is actually going to open closer to 150. Which is going to be huge. I think that's going to put it as one of the biggest openings of the year. I think the excitement has definitely built. They've done a good job like building back up to this Wicked moment. I don't see it having as good of legs as the first film for reasons that we're going to get into, but I think this strong of an opening is going to be awesome. I think it's probably going to make around the same as the first film, like bigger opening and probably less repeat business. Um, but the reviews are out and it is not looking good. It's a lot more negative than the first film. It feels like a lot of the criticism is kind of echoing my criticism with the first film. So it does worry me a little bit in terms of like my enjoyment of it if it felt like this didn't bother people in the last one, but it's really bothering people in this one. So we're gonna have to keep our eyes peeled, but as it releases, I'm curious as to like how this is gonna affect the film's awards chances. Um, I think obviously movies that have been not super favorably received by critics have done super well at the Oscars. Like let's consider Amelia Perez last year, but I don't know. Like I think the fact that it's a blockbuster might work against it, and especially in an extremely competitive year, I'm curious to see how that will impact in like the big categories. Like I think I feel pretty safe to say John M. Chu is out of Best Director, um, with this film kind of being so soft. But I think that Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress still feel attainable. I think they're extremely competitive categories, but I think they're still doable. And I think it's probably gonna be up for Best Picture, but I don't think it's as high in the list as it once was. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to keep an eye on. I think absolutely it'll get a lot of kind of craft awards for sure because the production design, costuming, makeup are like that is amazing in the Wicked films. And so I think that's going to persist. But it'll be interesting to see how the reception to this will affect awards chances, and it's really interesting to see like Wicked fans and critics really butt heads in this kind of way. I think it's going to be a very interesting weekend as more people see it. So I'm definitely going to be watching that, and then hopefully next week we'll be able to talk about it. But that kind of wraps up all the news I wanted to talk about. Definitely a longer news segment than usual just because there's so much to cover from the last 2 weeks. But yeah, let's get into what we've been watching, or what I've been watching. So I've been watching, as I said last time, I Love LA. I think the show is like finding its footing. Smiling Friends, obviously, like I think the new season has been great. There's been like a few misses, but I think it's really been finding its footing. The Chair Company is amazing. I'm about to get into Pluribus. I don't know how to say it. Pluribus. I'm super excited for that. I got to see the Smashing Machine. Finally, which I was like happily surprised by. I thought it was pretty good. And then I think I want to save my thoughts on this for a future episode. I'm hoping to do a Christmas movie episode, but I did get to see A Very Jonas Christmas, and that's all I'll say. That is all I will say. I saw it. I saw the movie, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about it for some type of Christmas episode. But yeah, it's definitely a movie. It's definitely a very Jonas Christmas movie. But yeah, so next week's releases, obviously, I mean, it feels like we're building up to it so much, but Wicked for Good is releasing this Friday, which is going to be huge. Train Dreams is going to be releasing on Netflix. I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I'm super excited. I'd love to talk about it next week on the show. We'll see how everything pans out, but that one has definitely been like, all the hype around it has been making me really want to see it. Rental Family is coming out. I definitely want to get around to seeing that. I probably won't be able to see it this weekend. And then Good Boy, which came out in October, is getting its premiere on Shudder. And then a bunch of other movies too, but those like I just kind of picked out as the most notable. I was kind of talking at the start of the episode, like I'm working on a production this weekend. We are shooting it, so like I'm definitely not gonna be able to get around to seeing all these movies. I want to make the time to see Wicked for Good, specifically to talk about it. Hopefully I'll be able to see Train Dreams, but this is gonna be like the busiest weekend of my year. So yeah, it's gonna be tough, but I'm really gonna try to do that. I'm gonna make a commitment here right now for the one person who's still listening. I will be back to talk about Wicked for Good next week. Whether it's on Wednesday or a little bit later in the week, I will be here. And I may be talking about Train Dreams as well. So, with that, thank you for listening so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And yeah, hopefully we will be back next week to talk Wicked for Good. Thank you so much. Thank you again to Rita for coming on to talk Frankenstein. And I hope you all have a great week.